So where we left off last time, we discussed how to create closed polyline curves like these ones here, using tools like the O snaps, having all those turned on, and using the grid snaps to get nice, precise measurements. Now, while these are good, right now all they are is just that. They're just closed polylines. You know, they're not really doing anything for us in a 3D modeling volumetric sense. So this is where we're going to discuss creating planar surfaces, because that's going to be the thing that actually helps us build up our model so that we can take the lines that we imported earlier over here, and we're going to actually be able to turn them into 3D volumes that are graphically useful to us. Now, prior to showing you the planar surface command, let's move over to the perspective view for a second here. We're going to go to the drop-down menu, and currently it's showing in wireframe. We're going to put it in shaded. We're going to do this because when I show you how to create a planar surface in a second, I want you to show what that actually comes out looking like in a perspective. Now, to create a planar surface in a closed loop is very easy. All we're going to do is, since you remember we used the join tool to make sure that this was joined in one closed curve, we're going to select it. Then I'm going to, up at the command bar, you can start typing planar, P-L-A-N-A-R, and you can see it wants to autocomplete by itself, surface. We're going to hit enter. And look at that over in the perspective view. We see that now instead of just having a closed curve, we actually have a surface. This is a surface that we can now extrude into an actual volume. Do you remember when I said that it was important to work in closed curves? I'm going to show you why right now. Let's take a look up at this open polyline here. You can see that it's closed on 3 sides, but it's not closed completely. Now watch what happens when we try to do that exact same thing again. We're going to type planar surface, and look at that. It's going to say no faces were made because curves must be closed and planar. That's why the join tool we talked about earlier, and having your O snaps on to complete those lines, is so important. For a little practice, we can see that even with these other polylines, in these nice closed loops, planar surface does the exact same thing. Now that we have an actual surface to work from, we are going to try using the extrude tool to actually turn this flat surface into an actual volume. This is where we're going to start using the extrude command. So we're going to select one of our defined surfaces. Let's just try this one. Click anywhere on that surface to select it. And with the command bar already open, we're going to type extrude, E-X-T-R, extrude surface, and hit enter, and watch what happens here. You see? This is where the perspective view is really useful, because now we can actually see this shape developing in 3 dimensions. So you know what? We're just going to say, I mean, thankfully we have our grid snaps on, but we're going to just say right now we want to make this 5 meters high. So because we're working in meters, as we can tell from down here, and those are the units we define, we are going to just type 5 in the command because it knows that we're trying to draw something to a certain height. We type 5 and hit enter. And look at that. That's now defined a volume that, based on the original surface we just extruded, is 5 meters high. Trying something similar with this surface over here, we're going to select the surface. We're going to type into the command bar extrude surface. And this is where things like O snaps can actually be really handy too. If we want to make this the same height as the first one we made, O snaps like the mid and the near automatically recognize that we want to make it the same height. Or if, say, we want to make this one 10 meters high instead of 5, we just very simply type 10. You can see it comes up in the command bar there, and hit enter. So as you can see, the extrude surface tool is very easy to use. And it lets us take these simple surfaces we've created with our closed polylines and turn them into actual volumes. So as we orbit around our perspective view, holding down the right cursor to orbit, we can see that we've built up some actual volumes here. Now, to confirm that this is in fact a closed volume, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pick either one. Let's try this one on the left. So we're going to select anywhere in this volume we've created. And look at that. Up here above the command, it says one poly surface has been added to the selection. I could select both of them if I wanted. Then it just knows I've got 2 poly surfaces added. But what we're going to do here is we're going to quickly check and see that it's got an actual volume. So we're going to select. We're going to type volume, V-O-L. We're going to hit enter. And as we can see here, it's got a nice 525 cubic meters. So what this basically means now is that we've successfully created a defined and enclosed volume in Rhino. So you remember earlier how we were discussing that in your project, you're going to need to cite a gallery of some kind that's 15 meters by 7 meters by 8 meters high. Knowing what we know now about having our O-snaps on, our grid snaps on, creating planar surfaces, and extruding, let's try making that right now. So I can start anywhere on the grid. I'm going to work in this plane, the top plane. Make a selection. 15 meters. By 7 meters. Enter. By 15. And then close. Now that we've got our closed polyline, we're going to select it. We're going to type planar surface, hit enter. Perfect. Now we're going to select that surface we just created. We're going to type extrude surface, and then we're going to type 8 for 8 meters high. And now we have something that could serve as a very general shape for what we want to use for our gallery. So that's how easy creating a simple volume like this is in Rhino.